Hi, my name is Daniel Sneed, and this is my audience. Oh, here. My speech is on drug testing welfare recipients. People who receive welfare should have to take and pass a drug test before getting the governmental aid. If one has enough money to buy drugs, then they do not need welfare. They should not abuse the benefits of welfare because, coming from taxpayers to buy drugs, people should work for what they have. People applying for welfare should be mandatorily drug tested for the sake of people who actually need welfare, to reduce the abuse of taxpayers and because it is morally sufficient. Drug testing people who receive welfare should happen for the sake of people who actually need welfare. If you have enough money to be able to buy drugs, then you do not need public assistance, said by Colorado State Representative Jerry Sonnenberg. In the bill that was passed, testing positive for drugs would make one not eligible to receive welfare. However, the children in the household would receive their money to provide for their needs through a third party. This creates difficulty for the children. In a discussion, it was brought to attention that $7 million was the cost over the past 3 years for welfare. They, however, said the amount would rapidly decrease when everything was passed to the Senate. America is in debt for over $14 trillion. My main concern at this time comes from the fiscal note and the amount of money we're spending, Chappelle Nadal said. Seriously, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to cover all this, said Berg. America cannot afford to continue to spend money on welfare when it is not being used efficiently. Drug testing welfare recipients is taking the next step in the right direction to save money and save the economy from funding drug habits. Every welfare dollar that goes towards one recipient's drug habit is one less dollar that goes toward a child in need or a family that would spend the money on real needs, said one in concern from Vitter. The second reasoning for the drug testing of people receiving welfare would be because the taxpayers are being abused. It is our responsibility to protect the taxpayers, according to Vitter on the U.S. News Digital Weekly. And with potential billions of dollars of welfare funds ending up in the wrong places or being spent on illegal drugs, the least we can do is make sure that the money is going where it's actually supposed to go, also said on the U.S. News Digital Weekly. People do not care to help those in need, but taxpayers are being taken advantage of when they are supposed to be helping the economy. They do not want to fund people's drug habits, according to the drug testing article on the Concordian. This is not a cure-all, but this is a protection for the taxpayers and for the kids of drug users, said by Stouffer in Berg's article. In Mississippi, a law, TANF, or the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, are applicants put on a list for a questionnaire to ask about the likelihood of substance abuse. If they seem to be suspected of drug use, then they are required to be tested according to thinkprocess.org. Drug testing welfare recipients is also morally sufficient. If someone is on welfare, they should have to work for what they have, as well as for people who are not on welfare. If people who work for their money are required to take a drug test to receive their money, why should people on welfare who receive their money without even working not have to take a drug test? From the editorial drug testing, it is a sufficient way to manage money. Requiring screenings would give addicts a key incentive to seek help so they can once again be healthy, support their own families, and make positive contributions to our society, said one who thought second chances are reasonable even in this situation. Most of everyone would agree that people do not need to be dependable their entire life, but should instead provide a limited safety net that still encourages people to return to a self-sufficient way of life. This is quoted to imply that no one should ever go their entire life using welfare as a crutch, stated by Vitter. Making welfare recipients drug tests will also make people think before doing drugs. Do I want food for my family and I, or do I want to buy drugs? Positive drug testing does not necessarily render welfare recipients ineligible to receive benefits. If one tests positive for drugs, one can submit themselves into rehab and under classes. Their money would still be available for their children through a third-party member. Once one completes rehab, one can regain welfare benefits for them and their family together, according to Berg from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. However, failure to undergo and complete treatment when testing positive would result in the loss of benefits. A criminal drug charge would result in a loss of benefits for 5 years. However, a repeat offender would permanently lose benefits, but the child would still receive the benefits to a third party that I stated earlier in the speech. This is on the welfare drug testing on heritage.org. However, some people think that drug testing welfare recipients is unconstitutional. People believe that drug testing welfare recipients downgrades the unfortunate. They believe that it is not fair to drug test the welfare recipients because it is not the recipient's fault that they are in the less fortunate category. Some people may also say that it demoralizes them for being unfortunate. It is said that this could break them down mentally. Even though it is said to be taking a step closer to helping the government and saving money, people still believe that welfare recipients should not be drug tested. Drug testing of welfare recipients would be beneficial to all around the government and the economy. The U.S. is already in debt, and the welfare is being thrown into places we don't know where it is going and why. Drug testing should be required because people who need benefits to use for their families may get turned away. The person before them could be using their benefits to buy drugs, and that is sustaining them for receiving the benefits that they need because of a drug habit. As I quoted earlier in my speech, if you have enough money to be able to buy drugs, then you don't need public assistance. People should work for what they have because it is morally sufficient. They should not just be handed money for not working, especially when they're buying drugs. Also, taxpayers are being abused every day. Every day they are feeding someone's drug habit. Drug testing should be required for welfare, just as it is for people who have jobs.